Kazi. I am the product line manager for Insight. And today I'm going to spend some time talking about how Insight is being used in real life with some specific customer stories that I think you'll find very interesting. And then, of course, we'll also have a Q&A session towards the end of the session. So with that said, let me proceed. So basically, the problem statement that we solved with Insight is that small businesses are typically not equipped to handle IT projects. In fact, 83% of small businesses do not have any IT staff, yet the bulk of them have to make IT decisions. And basically, this creates a situation where they're, in addition to the businesses that they already run, they feel like they have this added burden of managing their network and learning essentially a whole new language, which is networking, in order to be able to do that. And basically, at the end of the day, what small businesses really are looking for is, how do I make this simple and how do I make this accessible to me? That is a problem that we've tried to solve with Insight, with NETGEAR Insight. And basically, as many of you already know, we launched Insight in September of this year. And Insight manages a set of select NETGEAR access points, NETGEAR switches, as well as pretty much the entire NETGEAR NAS line, with the exception of the 100 series. We came out with a mobile-first approach, so we basically, in our initial release, we had the mobile come out, and this again kind of ties back to the whole idea of providing a very accessible and simple interface for small businesses to be able to manage their networking. And we did get great press as a result of our launch. Here are just some examples of it, but essentially the net is this was very well received. The market in general, and certainly the analysts and the media community, felt like they understood that this was an underserved market, and that we were basically have a solution for a segment group, and this is a small business segment that is pretty much underrepresented. So with that said, what is NETGEAR Insight really about? So NETGEAR Insight it's all cloud-based, and it allows the management of a set of select devices from NETGEAR, all via the cloud. The initial interface, the front end we had, was the app available on iOS as well as Android. In January, we'll be adding the web portal to it, and you'll be seeing that. So this is actually a little bit future forward view. And there's some key differences in terms of what this means is that you have access anytime to your network, and you can do it literally from anywhere with the ease and simplicity of a mobile app. And then down the road, of course, the web portal itself. So key functionalities is that we made sure that we go across all of the functions, all of the core phases of networking. And those phases involve, first, the discovery of your devices itself, and we make it super easy with a network scan where Insight can actually do a network scan and tell you all the devices, all the NETGEAR devices that are within that subnet, and make them available to you. Two is the ability to identify the Insight managed devices and then be able to configure them. And you can do all of that through the mobile app, very simply, very easily, and at the same time with enough depth that if you are a technical user, so if you're an IT manager, you can still use this, and you can create, for instance, you can create VLANs that you associate with specific SSIDs. You can configure multiple ports, you can lag ports, you can actually even create VLANs across multiple switches in the event that you have more than one. And you can essentially, instead of doing this in all a siloed fashion, where you have to go into the UI of each and say of the GUI of every device and basically connect your device to your laptop or desktop and then configure that device specifically. What you're doing is in a very unified way, you're setting up your network. You create a network, then you add your devices to the network, and then you basically configure your devices, you configure your access points. You set up your SSIDs, up to 8 of them. You basically set up the security for your APs. We even have captive portal capability that allows you to provide your guests with free Wi-Fi. You can also set up the switches and essentially set up the ports, select your ports, configure the ports with everything from PoE to lagging, grading of VLANs, setting up security across your switches, etc., all through Insight. And then once you have configured everything, there's of course the issue of remote monitoring, and Insight is very good at monitoring your network continuously and providing you with alerts and notifications in many different situations. If, for instance, something is not right with one of your devices, we certainly let the user know using push notifications as well as emails. If new firmware is available, we make it super easy. We inform you and make it easy for users to update firmware. So essentially, complete ongoing management with visibility and control from anywhere, which is a huge advantage of Insight. So, and then something else is that each device natively supports, all the native event notifications, alerts, the traffic history, network discovery, secure remote access and configurations, and works straight out of the box. This again is a huge advantage, which means that when you are setting up the Insight ecosystem, you take out the Insight devices, you turn them on, and they are essentially ready to go. You download the app and you are ready to set up your network and to configure your devices. There is no need for any incremental software download, no configuration of any kind of management schema, none of that. It's literally just works out of the box. So with that said, let's kind of get down to the business of, what are the customer use cases? And I have a couple today. And these are, over the course of, as I said, we launched Insight in September, so we've had a little bit of a run rate, and we've been able to have some customers who've given us, some great feedback and views into what their situation is. So this is Veronique, and Veronique runs a local business actually out of Cupertino, California, which is in, for those of you who are not in the Bay Area, it is in the Bay Area. Not too far from San Jose. And Veronique is a native of France, but has made a home for herself here in the Bay Area. And what she is very keen about and has put all her focus on is to ensure that French language is easily available to students, and students could be kids as well as adults, and she does that via a school which is La Première French Academy, and basically this is a school for, as I said, for adults as well as children, for them to come and take language lessons that are very conversational. And she had a lot of trouble with her Wi-Fi, and we basically corrected that with the Insight ecosystem. And before I get into some of the details, I'm actually going to click on a short video that will give you.
The Insight app is great. If I were to make any adjustments to the system, at the tip of my fingers, and being anywhere, could just do it via my phone. So I think it's a great add-on. Happy to have it.
So Veronique's issue is that she depends on Wi-Fi, and one of the things she said is that initially her intention was to have a very interactive coursework, and basically the idea was that kids as well as adults, who come in to her classes, would have tablets, and via the tablets, she would be using, a lot of different course material that is available on the internet, as well as actually have like online components of the course, etc. But one of the issues she faced is that when she had multiple users, first of all, the setup of the Wi-Fi was very complicated. Two is that she had situations where the Wi-Fi would just not work to the extent that she needed it to, and she, as the business owner, really did not feel like she had the ability to control that, and she felt kind of at the mercy of her network. Well, all of that changed with Insight, and basically what it allowed her to do is, one, we asked her literally without any help at all to show us how she set up her network, and she did it all single-handedly. She has no technical expertise whatsoever. And basically she said that this was the first time that she was able to very quickly and simply just plug in the cables and tie in her AP with the switch and use Insight to basically set everything up, which was a huge difference from what she had known before. And then essentially she used the Insight app to configure things. And the difference is that now, immediately there was a dramatic difference in the setup of her network. She was basically able to provide Wi-Fi access to not just the kids in the classroom, and make her courses and her classes way more interactive, allowing kids to interact with their digital tools, whether they're laptops or phones or tablets, and be able to integrate the online components into her school courses. In addition to that, she would also have a situation where the parents of kids would be waiting in kind of the waiting area of the school. And in many cases, the classes would be like an hour, and the parents would just choose to wait out there. And they wanted Wi-Fi as well that was continuous and did not break down. And so it basically allowed them to also have access to Wi-Fi that was secure, and that Veronique felt was, that she had the sense of visibility and control. Also, if anything went wrong, if she was not actually physically present at her school, she still felt like she had control because she could access Insight from anywhere, and then basically instruct somebody else who would be in the school to make changes if they needed something physically. But in most cases, you can actually do all the troubleshooting completely remotely. So, and a key component that she also liked was that Insight provides support. So we actually had built into the app a bunch of sort of self-help capabilities that you can access. And there's a whole module for that is generic as well as specific to the devices that the user is engaged with. So this was about Veronique and La Première French Academy. The next one is actually a use case, a little bit different. So this is the owner. This is Rick. He's the owner of a handcrafted gelateria chain, and basically Rick's issue is a little bit different. He's somewhat technical, and he's quite sort of DIY-ish. He had this dream of creating amazing gelato that he had tasted on his travels through Italy. And basically he came back to California. He actually is out of Southern California, out in Orange County. And the idea was that he wanted to have that same level of high handcrafted gelato. He made his dream come true, and he opened up a single gelateria, which just in a few years expanded to 4 gelateria outfits across Southern California. And all of this is great. He's having huge success. But one of the things that he wants is to provide free Wi-Fi access and be able to manage the network, isolating the guest Wi-Fi, from his business networking, and to do it across the 4 locations that he has. And this is where Insight comes in, because before Insight, anytime there was something not right, he would literally have to drive into the other location, because his employee would just call him and say, hey, the internet is down, what are we going to do? And basically, to have an internet down in a small shop today is, has serious ramifications, because typically your POS, everything's kind of connected to it. So it was not made for a good story, and it required Rick to drive through Southern California, LA traffic to the other location. And this hampered the growth of his business. So he loves Insight, because with the Insight ecosystem, not only can he manage, because he is fairly DIY, he's a little bit technical, so he has no problem using the app that he can configure and set up the network, including created isolated networks across his 4 locations. And then the best part of it is that once he's set that up, he can monitor all his networks right from his phone. If something does not work, he no longer has to make drives into that location. He just fixes it right from his phone. And that level of visibility and control really provides him with peace of mind, that he knows that now one key element that he felt like was actually not in his control is now within his control. And essentially, this is the whole idea, is that Insight allows for the management of multiple locations through a single screen or a single pane of glass. In this case, what you're seeing is that you have the ability to see all your devices across your different locations in a single screen. You can see the status of those devices. You can also tap into a specific location and see granular diagnostics and statuses of different components. You can see, for instance, on the second screenshot, you're seeing the switch traffic utilization. On the third one, you're looking at data consumed over Wi-Fi, and you're actually doing it across all your shops. And basically, what it means is that you can not only monitor all your shops if you have multiple locations in a go, but you can also configure the settings across wired and wireless network and your storage devices all from anywhere. A huge advantage. So the Insight value for small businesses, certainly the simplified networking and an easy to use mobile app that's built for small business. So one thing is that, Insight was built completely with small businesses in mind. It was never an enterprise-grade solution that had been kind of dumbed down to meet a price point that usually is still unaffordable to small businesses. It was built from the ground up to meet the specific needs of small business. And what we've tried to do in Insight is to address the DIY type of business user, as well as when there's a service provider involved. And in most cases, for small businesses, most of them actually turn to some kind of service provider or a VAR who will actually help them with the setup of their network. And we've made sure that Insight covers both of those use cases. It has simplicity and accessibility for a small business to have some visibility and control over the network, yet it has the depth and breadth across the feature set and across all the different components, whether it's a wired network or the wireless network or storage, to provide a comprehensive solution. So we focused on quick installation, the ability to set up the access points, switches, and NAS devices, all of the key components that are required for a small business network. As I mentioned earlier, you can do configurations, complex configurations. You can also tie your wireless to your switch. You can create VLANs across multiple devices. You can SSIDs and tie them with specific VLANs that you've created on your switch. So it goes into a great deal of depth, and then also security components across both wireless and your wired network, as well as your storage ready NAS devices. And because it's cloud-based, there's really no limitations on the number of devices, on the number of locations, and the number of devices within each of those locations. And then finally, of course, we've been doing this for 22 years, and we have a brand reputation, a world-renowned brand for quality products, as well as great support and great warranty, all at an affordable price. So I know that Sarah is going to be sending you a link to this, but basically here are some links to not just the video that we showed you, but a bunch of additional how-to videos that you might want to check out, and it gives you some details on how to work with Insight. So with that said, I am going to actually open up for Q&A.
All right, thank you, Shaheen. If you have any questions at this moment, you can definitely use the chat box below. I just want to remind you all that we do have another webinar this Friday. We're going to be talking about multi-gig Ethernet. That will be this Friday, 17th at 11 a.m. All right. Well, it doesn't look like there's any questions at the moment. So if you have any questions, you feel free to email us, and we'll definitely be able to answer those later. Well, thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time.